Welcome back to the Learning Clinic on CKLU 96.7 FM. I'm your host, Robert Kirwan. With me in the studio today is Chris Nerpin, who is a member of the board of directors and is the spokesperson for Sudbury Summerfest. And Chris, we've talked about what the Summerfest 2014 is all about, but unfortunately, a decision has been made by the board that we may not be talking about Summerfest 2015.
Yeah, absolutely. The board made that decision earlier this spring after a number of months of discussions and issues, and the resolution was passed that there will be no festival for 2015.
So for a summer festival to go on 17 years, it's become somewhat of a tradition.
Yeah, it's a mainstay here in Sudbury. People know it.
It's a long time. It's 17 years. That's a long time for a festival to go on. And when you've got, on good years, anywhere from 30 to 50,000 people going through the Bell Park on a weekend, and you've got all these entertainers coming in, to just stop doing it, that is a problem. So
yeah.
So what's, without getting into the personalities and all this, what is the main reason why we're not at this point looking at a 2015, and what would it take for it to happen?
Well, essentially, as organizers and the decision makers that have decided that this will be the last year, cumulatively over the years, the lack of support from the city in rolling out our festival has declined to a point where we spend more time dealing with city issues and red tape than we do putting on our festival. After last year's festival and a number of issues, the board convened and discussion started right away with what do we do? What are we going to do? We can't keep doing this. The board is tired of dealing and trying to address these issues and remedy these issues. The board's tired of having to go and engage a counselor in order to get any kind of success or any kind of resolve from issues that arise with city staff. And so a decision was made in the fall to engage Fabio Belli, who was a great advocate for our festival and was working with us to resolve some of the issues. A motion was passed that Summerfest would cease to continue operations if we didn't see some change in the tone of the relationship with city staff. And on that, we had a number of meetings with 2 meetings, in fact, shouldn't say a number, more meetings with Fabio than necessarily with the staff. We had a meeting in February with city staff. The mayor was there, Councillor Belli, the late Councillor Belli, Caldarelli, Councillor Caldarelli was there, and a few city managers. And the tone that Summerfest took was, hey, let's wipe the slate clean. Let's forget about going on about the historical issues. Let's move forward on a better foot and on a better note. One of the main issues we have as a not-for-profit is since the amphitheater went back up, we pay all kinds of money to use it. What used to be a free venue for not-for-profits now costs us up to $8,000 a year to utilize for 4 days. One of the main issues we had is the contract that we signed with the city says that if we need a technical director, we will be provided one at an extra cost. We bring in our own stage manager. We pay a company to come in from Southern Ontario. They have for many years. We're very good with them. They're very good to us, and they're very accomplished, talented individuals. And this individual that the city subcontracts as a technical director is given the keys to the amphitheater. So you don't get access to the amphitheater unless you go through this individual. He essentially provides no service to Summerfest. He's there in most capacities as a city watchdog almost. And we are billed for his time the entire weekend. And so he bills the city passes that bill on to us, and we argued that that's neither fair nor right.
So you still have to bring in your technical.
We still bring in our technical director, but then this individual, with the wording "if needed," and then the city gives him the keys. You don't get into the amphitheater unless you go through that individual. And he's a nice guy, sure, but the fact of the matter is we're not for profit. We're counting our pennies. We're looking to see where we can find savings and we can provide, the more it costs us, the more it costs the people to attend. And that's one of the things we try to keep down and mitigate. The argument we were never given the opportunity to sit down and provide that argument to the city. Unfortunately, after our meeting with city staff and the mayor, and as I said, it was left that we were going to speak about the invoicing issues, and Councillor Belly was going to address them. He unfortunately passed away, and the next correspondence we received from the city literally said they acknowledged that Councillor Belly was looking at the invoice issue. Unfortunately, he's passed away. Please advise on payment arrangements. So there was never an opportunity for us to sit down and provide our side of the issue, or to argue how we feel it's invalid to be charged for this individual when we're paying, you know, somebody else. And with that, specific to last year, this technical director that the city subcontracts brought in an electrician to make modifications, and there was no communication done with Summerfest organizers. This was all done outside of us, and we have a volunteer electrician who does all of that for us every year to save us that costs and those fees. So there is no collaborative communication with city staff when we're putting together our festival. It really is very dictatorial, and we have found that when we bring note to issues, you know, the attitude on the other side almost seems to become defiant toward our issues. We've never been given, you know, this has been going on and been talked about in the community, and I think one of the things I'd like to mention today is how the city has continuously said that they've sat with Summerfest, and quite frankly they haven't. We've asked for the meetings, the city has never provided them, and we haven't gotten any resolve. City staff, time and time again, have packaged all of our issues, or all of our for lack of a better word, conflicts with the city as health and safety issues, which is flabbergasting when you think of 17 years of festivals, and I think there, you know, one injury, not that I mean to downplay it, you know, it was unfortunate for that individual, but no harm came to the festival, no harm came to the city of it. It was mitigated. We had, you know, the proper insurances in place, and the processes and the policies, and so because we had done that and we were diligent, it was taken care of the way it was supposed to. So to come at us year after year with these arbitrary decisions on the ground while we're putting out our festival, and almost always with it's a health and safety concern, it's not just offensive, it's flabbergasting, and it is dictatorial, and Summerfest really does feel that they pay the city to become servants to the city, and it's unfortunate, and regardless of what official statements have come from the city, there are fantastic people we worked with at city. We don't mean to blanket all of the city staff as being difficult to work with, but there are certainly a number of them that make this planning this festival very, very difficult, and the foolishness. One of the issues last year that was brought up on the Thursday, and I'll explain the whole scenario maybe to give an idea of what it's like and what the tone is from city staff. One of the issues that came up on Thursday night was the city wanted us to start serving beer in cups, so pouring them from the beer cans into the cup and serving them. We were told this Thursday night we didn't have the resources to do it, we didn't have the manpower to do it, but we had to do it. We were told we had to do it because beer cans can be projectiles. It's a health and safety thing. We began doing this, and as we did this slowed up our ability to serve the alcohol to the individuals. Lineups started, and so these lineups started blocking bathrooms and gate exits, and guess what we've just created, folks? A health and safety concern. So decisions are made from city staff, and it's almost in a very narrow-minded view, I want you to do this. We argued back, well, anything can be a projectile, a water bottle.
Have you ever had issues with that?
Never. There has never been an issue like that. And I want to go on that liquor licensing and talk about that a little more. So right at the beginning of this festival, we now have a contentious issue. We served them in the cups for so long, and then we just couldn't do it. And we were blocking exits and blocking the bathrooms. So, as organizers, we decided we're within our rules, we're within our legislation under the Liquor Licensing Act. Doing this is causing us more problems than it's solving, so back to the cans we went. So liquor inspector gets called into the park. Summerfest didn't call him, we're not sure who did, and he shows up at the park, and before he comes to talk to us, city staff, more or less, commandeer him. And they spend an hour talking to him. And he comes to talk to us, and he has nothing to change and nothing to suggest. He was very diplomatic in the things he had said to us in regards to what the city had told him. One of the issues the city wanted us, or another thing the city wanted us to do in regards to the liquor licensing was move one of our food vendors right in beside where we were serving the beer. Well, according to the legislation, we had the food vendors in the licensed area, which is something we have to commit to, perfectly within the regulations of what the licensing requirements are. No issues coming from the liquor licensing agent, but city staff. And all we could really delve out of the conversation we had with the liquor inspector after the fact was essentially the motivation of city staff was to get the liquor inspector to support what they wanted to do. We were completely within legislation, we were following all the rules, and it's that type of thing that is, that's not supporting a festival. And it's funny, you sign all kinds of contracts, you get your insurances, and you roll out this festival, and there are concerns of health and safety, and we want the community to be safe, and we want to mitigate any liability issues, and we want to make sure that not only has Summerfest covered all bases, but that people are safe.
Nobody wants to get sued either.
Well, and that's the big thing. So we go through that, and we've not been sued. And what amazes me is that you meet all these terms of the city and all these legislation, and then you have city staff coming in and putting their hands in everything. And what amazes me is that nobody at the city has realized how they're opening themselves up to liability by doing that. You sign a contract with the city, we said that we've met the terms of the city, something happens, the city is free and clear of that liability because we've met the terms. City staff coming into their park and putting their hands on absolutely everything, insurance companies are gonna have a heck of a time, or a great time laying liability on the city when something happens and a lawyer for an insurance company can say, hey, you guys were down in there. You had your hands all over it, so you're just as liable as Summerfest is. And it amazes me that nobody in the city has realized that. And it's not just that, there's one staff member every single year. I take care of the backstage and all the media and all the access to the concerts for media and so on. And every single year, one single staff member videotapes every concert. Maybe not every concert. I've seen the city staff videotaping a number of concerts. We are contractually obligated to ensure media don't take pictures or don't record anything usually past the first 3 songs. That's usually what's stipulated. Sometimes it varies from artist to artist. We've never had the city ask us. We've never had the city staff member ask us. And by that city staff member doing that, they are actually putting us at risk of breaching our contract with the artist. So it's stuff like that. And it's so cumulative.
So I was gonna say, so it's not one thing, it's.
Oh,
it's kinda
goodness.
So the issue with the technician is more or less a straw, that's not a straw, it's.
Well, it's the
brick-
fact that they
brick
won't let
that
us sit
broke.
down and talk about it,
Just a
We have no problem having respectful conversation, we have no problem collaborating with the city, but and what's unfortunate is when we do counter with anything, the city seems to, or city staff will just change the tone. The carnival issue 3 years ago, we battled 2 years to keep carnivals here in the city, and city staff are recommending that carnivals be banned from municipal property, and we battled that. And that first year, we were not told anything in advance, first year back into the park, 2011, and when we went to set up our carnival, city staff told us we couldn't have it in the park. What do you mean we can't have it on? We're down here setting up a festival, what this is new. Well, and why, we asked. The answer we got from city staff was, carnivals don't fit in the city's vision of what Bell Park should be used for. Well, then I'm guessing the public consultation process that was apparently utilized to redesign and redevelop Bell Park wasn't really a two-ended conversation, was it? What do you mean it doesn't fit into your vision? So what is your vision of Bell Park? And you couldn't get an answer on that. So we not willing to roll over, we pursued the issue, and then, it changed to, well, it's a noise thing, or it's a bylaw thing, and we need to review it, and city council sent, staff back to come back with recommendations, and the second year, We brought in the carnival, we were told we could have the carnival, but when the carnival applied to the city to get a permit, the city said, no, we're not giving you a permit this year. No communication to Summerfest, just to one of our so the relationship is not healthy.
So you're hitting on one of those areas. I think, and this would open up a whole other can of worms, but I think if we had full-time counselors, that you probably wouldn't have had these problems, because one of the difficulties is city staff presents something like a vision, 180-page report to city council, and then the motion is to accept the vision. Very few pieces are picked up.
Yeah.
And it's these little pieces like you're talking about that get approved, and city staff then can say, well, council approved it.
Yeah. Well,
And they really didn't, but they didn't know what was in there.
Well, and I think I'll have to speak personally to that. I can't necessarily speak in terms of Summerfest, but if you're gonna run for public office, whether it's a full-time or part-time,
Absolutely.
and you win, you don't have an excuse for not educating yourself.
You know that it's a half-time job, and
Yeah.
so
And
you have to slow people down. And I think you hit a real problem, and I guess from my perspective is, I know we talked about the fact that it takes a year to organize one of these things. What happens if the city wants to have Summerfest 2015 take place?
Well, there would have to be a complete change in attitude from the city. There would have to be, it's really been Summerfest's experience that we sit with staff and we sit with council, and we present our side of the story, and then staff presents their side of the story, and that's the end of it. It's staff's side of the story that the council follows, and which means, and we've heard things from councillors, well, we don't hear other festivals complaining. Well, quite frankly, is that relevant to what we're saying to you?
But it sounds like you're talking about a policy that is applied to all festivals now.
Well, why does it matter if we have an issue, if somebody else doesn't bring that issue to you? Should we not sit down and talk about that issue?
It's an issue.
It's an issue. And unfortunately, I was so offended this year sitting in one of the meetings, the mayor was there, and one staff member, and his attitude was just offensive, and he said, well, maybe you're just all tired. And I didn't respond with what I wanted to respond with, which is, yeah, we're tired of dealing with you folks, and we're tired of that kind of mentality. Who are you to dictate to us what our issue is? One of the biggest dysfunctions of this whole thing is that in the last 2 years, we have had to put so much effort and energy into city staff and dealing with these issues that we're not able to focus on our organization. And that needs to be done in any organization in order to keep it going and viable. Our organization is still viable. We're still rolling out this festival like we have each and every year before, but we're not going to continue giving up our vacations and working on emails till 3 o'clock in the morning, or reviewing contracts, or doing this and doing that if our time is wasted because the support isn't there at the city level. And arts and culture, I think one of the things that needs to be mentioned is arts and culture is something that is gonna come from your community. It's gonna start in community, it's gonna be supported by your community. And if you start bringing in all of these the policies that need to be developed around that, need to be developed to leave it to grow, not to control it. You can't control arts and culture. It's something that's magical, and it happens in your community, and your policies have to recognize that, and they have to nurture that. That doesn't exist at the city.
So from a practical standpoint, you've had discussion with the current staff and council, so nothing's gonna change.
No, we can't need counselors. What's really unfortunate is current counselors will not respond to our emails. They will not engage with us, which I think is terribly offensive. It's not just an organization, but guess what, folks? We're all taxpayers too. You have a responsibility to respond, and they don't, which to me just shows the lack of concern. And the fact that they are being guided by staff, and they're not opening their ears to our issues.
So December 1st, a new council gets sworn in.
Wouldn't that be wonderful?
Well, even if there's one new person,
Yeah.
it's a new council. There's a window, there's a time window for running a.
Absolutely.
I
We
mean,
start applying for grants right on the heels of this festival. You know, a lot of them have to be in September 30th.
So those grants are not gonna be applied for.
No.
So immediately, that's a loss of how much?
Probably safe to say up to $100,000.
Wow, $100,000 in grants,
Yeah,
so that's gone.
that's gone.
What does the city normally put in? Does the city?
In
normally-
previous year, you know, that's the financial support from the city has somewhat declined over the years. One of the things we've done in the past with economic development was applied for a loan. So that loan would be provided to us interest-free as seed money, so we could book our acts and make the down payments. We would then use the Sudbury Arena as the ticket outlet, meaning that all sales went to the city to pay off that loan before Summerfest made
That's
any
your
money.
security.
Exactly. Seems like a great idea. What happens is economic development gets their $100,000 back and they can reinvest that into the community somewhere else. We were told this year essentially they don't like the grant idea or the loan idea. They want us to come up with a reason for them to grant us the money. So we started at the beginning, phase one, you know, and it's so ironic. You have to provide these metrics that economic development in the city can't complete their own, but you have to be able to provide them. And you have to describe what Summerfest is, and you, in order for us to have qualified for this money this year, we needed to have a new programming or a new direction, and it really was city staff dictating to us what we needed in order for them to give us the money, and they didn't want to do the loan thing anymore, which, you know, that's fine. I personally, and the board, quite frankly, thought the loan thing was terrific. You give us the money, we use it to develop an economic drive or a tourist event in the community. You get it all back and you can give it and put it somewhere else. How is that not a win-win situation?
Were you still able to get your grant money?
No grant money this year.
No grant money?
No grant money this year. Our outstanding invoice, we got a grant from Civic Arts. The city would not sit down and talk to us to resolve this, so they simply withheld the money on that outstanding invoice, which is makes sense from a business decision. But so that Civic Grants invoice.
So how did we lose out on the $100,000 in grants that you normally got every year?
How do we mitigate that?
Like, how did we not, because you were applying for a grant from the city, did that disqualify you from applying for the other grants you normally?
No, not at all. No, not-for-profits. I mean, anybody who's worked with a not-for-profit knows that there's a mentality, ask for it all.
So you did, okay. So is that $100,000 grant still available if you were to apply for it
Well,
this year?
we essentially, by the time, you know, dealing with city and the specific issues, by the time, and I will say that the contact I have and I've worked with at Economic Development is an absolutely fantastic person, you know, and really appreciated the work she did with us. But it just, you know, the time, you know, the back and forth and then dealing with the city stuff, nobody's paid. So we're, like I said, we're doing this on our lunches. We're taking time off work to do this. So, you know, it wasn't, it was too late in the game for us to expect to get any money from them this year.
So, do you get any grants from any of the other governments or
Oh, yeah.
organizations?
Absolutely.
So-
You know, we have great support from the Ontario government. We get support from the federal government. You know, different government organizations, OLG, for example, is a sponsor. We have sponsors with the media. And, you know, we make do with what we've got. And we've done very well doing that. We run on literally a break-even budget so that we're able to invest the money in this community, into this festival, break even and do it again next year.
So suppose that the mentality is, no, we want to invite Chris and his group back to the table in January, and we would like you to put on Summerfest 2015. Is it a possibility?
Oh, anything's possible. I think to clarify, there will be a number of board members that are resigning this year. I will be one myself, so there will be new blood. An organization doesn't just close the doors. You know, we need to file reports for our funding. We need to wrap things up and tie things up, and that takes a little while after the festival. I think that if the city is interested in reviving Summerfest, then it will have to be the city that invites the board to come down and sit and to work together and to acknowledge the difficulties, to acknowledge the issues. And that would just be the start. Then you're gonna have to look at the financial aspects of it, you know.
How much would it cost to put it on?
We-
If the city,
we run
if
on
the
a-
city funded the whole thing,
Between $400,000 and $500,000 is our budget.
that's
That's what we spend each year.
what you spend, but you get revenue, right?
Yes, absolutely,
what-
so,
what would the net
well,
cost
I
be
imagine
to
it
the
would
city?
have to be seed money,
What
you
would
know,
that
both
net-
the acts.
What would the net cost be to the city at the end of the thing?
An actual cost,
Roughly.
$250,000.
So about two
It
hundred.
depends on the acts you bring in, right? This year, we haven't spent as much as we have in prior years, but we're still bringing in the same caliber of acts. It just, it would take that commitment, it would take that
So
cooperation.
the difference between the revenue and the grants that you need to operate on a $500,000 budget, you generally get 250,000 in revenue and 250,000 in grants.
There you go.
Is that,
Somewhere around there. No, I wouldn't say it's all grants. I mean, we have sponsors, we have in-kind stuff, you know. A lot of our marketing and media
Right.
is in-kind, and so there, you know, that dollar value isn't necessarily all cash.
so
A
the
lot of it
check
can
that
be
the city would
contract.
have to write out would be about how much?
Well, if they're gonna put their money where their mouth is, I would say a good start would be $100,000.
So $100,000 check would get would get.
A $100,000 check would likely secure our bands for that main stage, which is you know where the biggest expenditures are, and then from there, you know, move forward. But it would take that commitment.
So it would take that quick commitment.
Yeah, it would, and
And a change of attitude.
a change of attitude and acknowledging that these issues that Summerfest brings to the table exist.
So at this point, there is no Summerfest 2015.
No.
If there is gonna be one, it's gonna be, the new city council is gonna have to basically make a motion that they want it, and basically make a motion to fund it.
Well, you know, I don't think it's fair to say that for sure. Who knows how this festival's gonna turn out? You know, perhaps we'll end up with a major surplus and there'll be seed money there. Who knows?
But even if you get a major surplus right now, there's no 2015.
No, because it's not about the money.
No.
It's never been about the money.
So it's the money and the change of attitude.
Yeah. Well, it's not about the money. It has never been about
Oh,
the
I'm
money.
sorry, but
It's that bureaucracy. It's that red tape.
from
it's
our
that-
point of
yeah.
view, it might be about the money if you don't have the surplus.
Yeah,
Okay.
and we haven't applied for the funds and the grants, right?
So then it's gonna be too late to apply for the funds.
Yeah.
For the
Well,
grants.
yeah, I'll tell you right now, I'm usually working on grants right now for the federal government for next year. And then we have the short window of time where you've received a grant from last year, so you have to file a report of how that funding rolled out when you apply for your new next year.
Probably the thing that bothers me most is that when you interrupt your flow of funding for
Yeah.
a year,
Yeah, it's
sometimes
dangerous.
hard-
It is very
It's hard
dangerous.
to get back.
And you're absolutely right, and that was one of the things we talked about at the board level. But why should we as organizers put so much time into something that our city doesn't support? And you know, again, there are some great people at the city, but we don't know if it's the tail wagging the dog. We don't know why it is that unless we have a counselor right there at the table with us advocating for us, we do not get anywhere with city staff. Has it become an issue of we provided a complaint to city staff one year and maybe their knuckles got wrapped and so now we're in this situation of we're gonna pay for that for forever? We don't know. We really tried in this year to wipe the slate clean, not to you know, fester on old issues and not to deal with these things. But, you know, the city has wholly misrepresented the tone. You know, I've heard the city come out and say they've had meetings with Summerfest to help develop this checklist. There have been no meetings with Summerfest. Any meeting Summerfest has with city staff are requested by Summerfest, and it's to deal with an issue that has come up. And we're not usually very successful unless we have a counselor sitting at the table with us. So,
And this is our biggest festival of the year.
yeah, and it's terrible, and we love doing it. It's fantastic to do, but it you know, it's like anything in life. You know, nobody's being paid. We're taking financial losses. We're taking financial risks. You know, a week of holidays that we don't get to go on vacation, we spend it here.
So is your board of directors willing to kind of sit in the sidelines and be prepared to come back if called under the right terms?
There are some diehard Summerfest fans and there are some diehard Summerfest organizers. I would say anything is possible, you know, but the exhaustion and the dysfunction that has come from this type of environment working here in the city has just tapped it, so
Right,
unless organized.
reconciliation is possible.
That, isn't it though? And because this isn't about Summerfest, and this isn't about what's wrong with the city, this is about our community, and what our community wants, what our community needs, and what our community supports, so if city staff could look at it from that perspective, maybe, just maybe, we could make some headway.
Well, we gotta look into it. Well, Chris, good luck with 2014.
Yeah, thank you.
And we'll see.
It's gonna be a great year, you know,
It's gonna be
we're
great.
doing it just like we do any other year, we don't want this to be a negative thing necessarily on this festival, and, you know, come on down and enjoy it.
Yeah.
If it's the last one,
It's, I have a feeling it won't be, but.
well, that'll have to come from
That'll have to
leadership.
come- That will come from leadership. I don't think there's gonna be one of those things that this city can afford to have disappear from its landscape, so
Well, and
We'll see what
Summerfest
happens.
appreciates that opinion.
we'll see what happens.
Great,
Thanks, Chris, for coming in. It's definitely food for thought.
thank
And
you.
again, we will definitely be in touch. Thank you for listening to Learning Clinic on CKLU 96.7 FM. Tune in again next week when Dan Alonson's gonna be in our show at 12 o'clock to talk about his platform for mayor of the city of Greater Sudbury.